This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Welcome back to another episode of the Grow Your Clinic podcast. My name is Jack O'Brien. I'm your host. I'm pumped to be back in the saddle today to continue our Member Spotlight series. Clinic owners that are doing an incredible job at leading inspired teams, transforming their client experiences, growing their clinic, and ultimately building clinics for good. I get so juiced by this type of stuff, and I could not be more juiced to have this guest with us today. Ives Silvera, welcome to the podcast. How are you, mate?
Really good, thanks, Jack. Pleasure to be here.
It's been a long time coming, but I am really humbled and honoured to have you as a guest. We've been working together for years now, and you've done an incredible job as a clinic owner. So tell me, what did you get up to on the weekend that was?
I just had a lovely weekend spending some time with some mates, watching some footy. Couldn't ask for much more, right? It was a really good, refreshing weekend.
Who do you follow or barrack for?
In the NRL, I go for the Canberra Raiders, and in the AFL, it's like which kid do I like more, having worked at GWS being a lifelong Swan supporter. So, yeah.
GWS and Swans, mate. It's the local derby. Surely after the weekend, the Swans got up, so you'd be barracking for them, right?
Yeah, it's always a tough one, Jack, and something I get a lot of stick for. But very happy the Swans got the win against North Melbourne for sure.
Absolutely. And I know you've got a little bit of an unusual week coming up. What's on the agenda for you this week?
Yeah, so this week I'm taking away my team on a retreat for a few days at a beautiful part of New South Wales, the Southern Highlands. So really excited to refresh and re-energise for the back half of the year.
Love it, mate. Love a good team retreat. That's unreal. So, mate, your clinic journey and your journey through life and as a physiotherapist and now clinic owner has been nothing short of fascinating. So we're going to dive into that, and there'll be some pearls for every clinic owner listening on overcoming adversity and finding opportunities through challenges. But before we get into that story, Ives, I've got a couple of icebreaker questions for you. So are you ready to go?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Number one, what are you reading or learning right now?
I'm reading a book at the moment by a guy called Charles Duhigg called The Power of Habit. And I'm just obsessed with formulating cornerstone habits. And it's been a really big part of my transitional journey over the last 3 months. So I've really enjoyed it. It's the second time I'm reading it, and I'm getting even more pearls along the way.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Number two, who inspires you?
I look to my dad a lot when it comes to inspiration, and he's someone who certainly inspired me. He came to this country, had a really cool job, and really had to start from the ground up when he came here after I was born, and really worked his way up. And I've seen how hard he's worked, and he's someone that inspires me every day to continue to work hard on my journey, for sure.
Love it, mate.
Yeah.
Tell me, what did you want to be growing up?
I wanted to play cricket for Australia. There's no secret about that. Having been of Indian descent and grown up in Australia, I think that was always in the cards. So it was a pretty close second when I said, if I can't play cricket for Australia, it'd be pretty cool to be their physio, which started my physio journey. But yeah, certainly want to be a professional cricketer.
So channeling Errol Olcott through that physio for the cricket team journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, what a cool gig, which I'll talk about later. I've been a sports physio, but being a cricket physio, I sometimes struggle with because I'd much rather be playing than sitting on the sidelines.
Oh, fair enough. And what's a motto that you live by, mate?
A motto that I live by. Love this quote by Winnie the Pooh. We didn't know we were making memories. We just realized we were having fun. And I really like to bring that to the forefront of just trying to be present in the moment and enjoy life as it comes along. I think it's very sweet and very important to me. Yeah,
I would say from observation, you are definitely a very present character, a very humble, very grateful, and very present leader, which is super inspiring, mate. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned that you grew up from an Indian family or Indian descent and wanted to play cricket through being a physio. Can you connect the dots for us all the way through to overcoming the adversity to finally get into the physio degree?
Absolutely. Well, the physio journey started when I was about 14 and I hurt my back playing cricket, as a lot of young cricketers would feel. And that was when I spent a lot of time on the physio for Plinth and really thought that this could actually be a real profession for me. So I feel I was very lucky, Jack, that I really felt a calling to become a physio from a very young age. And the other element of that was the giving back and helping people. Around the same time, my grandfather got sick, and I was able to see in the hospitals how much relief and help the physios were able to give him. So it was a vision, and it was an ability to connect, helping people with competition, which I loved. So I knew I wanted to do it. From a very young age, HSC came around, year 12. I just missed out by less than a UAI point back in those days, which was devastating at the time, but I was very, was very happy to have maximised, I think, my potential with my academia back then, because it was a high cutoff. Did the undergraduate program for 3 years, missed out again on getting into the degree, did a master's in sports science, had the grades, missed out again due to a technicality in grading, took on the university, got an application, looked at separately, and finally, after 3 separate attempts, a long story short, got into the degree. So it was not an easy path, but a path I'm so grateful for.
Wow. And reflecting on that journey, you obviously had a real commitment to finally getting this across the line, come hell or high water. Were there any lessons that you learned in that journey of persistence or challenge or adversity?
Yeah, Jack, genuinely, because I talk to a lot of physio students about this when they're going through hardships, I wouldn't change that journey for the world. It's helped build the resilience in me that's helped me throughout my career and going forward. At the time, it didn't seem like so, but the old quote that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you, I start to reflect upon and see it now. I've made some amazing friends, Jack, along the way, met some amazing people, learned some great lessons. It allowed me an ability to work in elite sport at a younger age. There's too much to unpack there, but I think this was the journey I was meant to run. I was never meant to have just gotten in as an undergrad and go through. I was meant to do it the hard way. It's how I do things in life, really, as you know me quite well. So
love it.
Why be any different with my career?
I love it. It reminds me, Ives, of a little saying. I've got a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old children at home, and we say that O'Briens do hard things. That's one of the mantras of our household. So it sounds like it resonates. Tell me, did you ever feel like throwing in the towel?
Absolutely. There were
why didn't you? Or
times,
what held you back from throwing in a towel?
If we talk about the initial journey just to get into physio, and there's other elements when I was a physio, I think this innate ability of knowing this is what I was truly called to do, something inside of me, and like you said, looking around it, how lucky I am to be where I was at. I just knew that I wouldn't be happy unless I got there. And I knew if it was going to take a longer time, it doesn't matter. I was going to do it. So, Jack, I looked at options to go into state. I got accepted into the Gold Coast program before I got into Sydney Uni. So I was willing to make the sacrifices to do it. But I think that innate ability of knowing this is what I was meant to do. Doesn't mean it was easy, but
well, it allows you to get through the tough times, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So you've mentioned a little bit about overseas. You've mentioned some elite sports. Where has your career as a therapist taken you? And then we're going to dive into the clinic owner stuff. So tell us about where your career as a therapist has taken you.
Yeah, I'm very proud of what I've been able to do during my career. I think straight out of university, I got a job in a great private practice, which also allowed me to work in elite sports. So I worked my first year out with the Greater Western Sydney Giants, which is, again, why I always feel conflicted going to Swans and Giants games. Wearing orange to a Swans game was one of the weirdest experiences of my life, I think, growing up a passionate Swans supporter. But yeah, I was able to do that. And then 2 years out, got an opportunity to move to India, my country of birth, and work there for 6 months in private practice, which was one of the greatest experiences of my life, not just from a physio point of view, just a life point of view, to be able to be embedded in that culture, to go back to where my parents, were brought up, and a real sense of pride with that as well. I remember Mum getting a little bit emotional, saying, wow, we've come here to build a better life for you, and you're going back there to help others build a better life for themselves. And I was like, it was really cool. And it's a big part of my why going forward, that I hope to create pathways to continue to help the people of India down the line.
I get tingles as you talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And then we've come back, and I've been very lucky to have worked in a lot of more community sport. As you know, do a lot of ergonomic consulting, and I have a variety of elements to what I do. I wear many hats, but it makes me who I am and gives me real joy and happiness in my career.
Unreal. That's so exciting. And no doubt that shaped the type of clinic owner and type of clinic you're now building. Tell us about those early days of starting your own clinic. What was the inspiration behind that? What did it look like? And through to where is it now?
Yeah, it is a very unique journey, which is one of the reasons I wanted to come on the podcast. Everyone needs to run their own race. I ran my own race. It started when I came back from India in 2014. I started working for a lovely woman who had an older style practice, and the intention was for me to work there and to buy her out, 6 months, a year down the track in transition for me to be an owner. And I thought at the time that's what I wanted to do. But, into the journey, we realized we were very different people and practitioners, and it just wasn't going to work. And, after about a year of working together, we decided to part ways. The difficulty at the time was that I thought maybe I could have a few months to transition to a new role, but she actually asked me within 2 weeks to leave if that was all right, which was a bit intimidating. But again, looking back was one of the best things to happen. But very important to the story, because when you get asked to leave with 2 weeks, you're like, oh, what am I going to do? So I took a job in the city. I live in suburbia, or the inner east or southeast of Sydney. I took a job in the city, but my clients wouldn't travel to the city to see me. So one of my early mentors told me, how about you just start something in your parents' granny flat? Here's an Excel spreadsheet I use. You can get them to give them cash and give them a receipt, and at least you'll be able to keep your clientele base while you're working. So from humble beginnings, we started one night a week in my parents' granny flat. And it was really, really interesting experience doing that.
No doubt. And that's now evolved to having your own facility and a team.
4 years later, and it has been 4 years, we now have a beautiful commercial space. I've hired my first physio, and I have a couple of administrative helps as well. So I actually am building a team now, which is really exciting. So yeah.
And you've done an amazing job to now have an ongoing permanent team. That said, over the last 4 years or so, you've had numerous team members pass through your clinic doors through your internship program. Can you speak to us a little bit around firstly, how that worked, but some of the leadership lessons and challenges that you learned along the way?
Absolutely, Jack. It started around the same time I moved into my home clinic in 2014. I've always loved teaching. As you know, I've been lucky enough to teach at university and give lectures, and it's something that gives me great fulfillment. And when I treat my clients, I've always loved having students right by my side, because I feel like they keep me accountable to the clients and really bring a great joy to the process. So in 2014, one of those early mentors that I was lucky enough to meet, a guy called Nick Stepkovich, had his own internship model where he would take international students from all around the world, and they'd come for not like a 5-week internship that's very similar, or a 5-week placement that's very similar in the Australian model, but rather sometimes 10, 15, 20 weeks. So you could really embed them as part of your clinic and get them to assist and help you. And I just loved his model. And he sort of took me under his wing, and we, in the early days, he was so good to us. So when I had the home clinic, I didn't have much business, but we would share interns, and they would spend some time with me and some time with him, until I built a whole model where they would only spend time with us. So they would come for usually 15, 20 weeks, and we would embed them in clinic. They would assist during the consults. They would help with systems, help take payments, and just be part of the whole process. Come with me when I go to sports teams, when I go to economic seminars, but really being a great asset. And yeah, we built up from that, and we've had about 64 people through, I think, on last check. So it's been pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that presents some unique challenges for you. So in terms of the transient nature, they come, they embed, and then they leave. How were you able to overcome some of those challenges?
Yeah, well, in the early days, of course, I couldn't afford to have a team member. So it's a great ability to have an intern who can help and assist you in the journey. I guess what I've learned along the journey is when you have great systems in your business, it almost doesn't matter who the intern is, although it is very important to have the right personality and culture and fit, but it feels like, someone's able to go and the next one can come in, and we create great systems and models around transitioning interns, which I think was a very important part of the process. So that certainly helped. And the most important thing is, which when I talk to other business owners, I can't relay enough, you treat them like you would any team member. You still do your one-on-ones with them. You still give you their KPIs, desire statements, all those important factors. It doesn't matter that they're leaving in 10 weeks. When they're there, they have to have an amazing internship experience, which is something I'm passionate about. And when you do that, I feel like things have worked well. And Jack, that's really helped me now as I've hired a new team member. I know a lot of business out there may well say, I'm just struggling to get my existing client base to not see me, but see my new grad.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
I'm so lucky in my clinic, Jack, because I've had interns for the past 4 years. I found that transition exceptionally easy because they're just so used to having someone else assist them. For me to transition to someone else and get allowed to help them has been wonderful. So that's a great lesson I've learned in the past 4 years.
Unreal. That's really good. And I'm sure there are clinic owners that are thinking, I wonder how I could work on an internship type model or student program to create a pipeline for employees to help to systemize their business. And I know you've been working on your business as well as in your business for years now. You mentioned systems, but from those humble beginnings of one night a week in your parents' property through to now standalone, what are some of the business principles that you've put in place along the way?
I really believe doubling down on my strengths has been something that's really been important. I think early on in my business owner journey, I was just looking at other people and not trying to run my own race. So building down on the stuff I was really good at in terms of culture and communication. So the most important thing was I built the one-on-ones with the interns, and it just really, really helped because I didn't have any team at the moment, but it helped me be accountable to myself. And from that, I would build other important, more financial systems for myself, like, in the academy talk about this CI dashboarding and just looking at where people are coming from. But it just starts with doubling down on what I feel I was good at and just building off the back end of that and running my own race. I think that's very, very important. Probably took me 3 years to work that out. That's okay. We got there.
But in the big scheme of things, 3 years is an absolute worthy investment. And I think what you're touching on there is that leadership and clinic ownership is a skill that needs to be practiced. It's a muscle that can be developed. And you've done a great job of honing those skills over time with now 60 plus interns so that your team members are able to reap the benefits of your practice over the last few years. You mentioned there the Clinic Mastery Business Academy, and we're super proud to have worked alongside you and co-piloted through the journey. What role has Clinic Mastery played in your clinic owner journey?
Yeah, it's been, I think, obviously the systemizing, we've used a lot of the plug and play stuff from the academy, which has certainly helped me tremendously. But I feel like over the past 6 months, particularly surrounding myself with some amazing people and getting my own mindset right has been huge. And I think that's very underestimated. When you're with the right community of people that can help lift you up and help guide you through tough times. And I feel that's been a big change in the past 6 months as well. Just, feeding off the energy of other people and helping them draw me forward and lift me up. So I think that's been really, really beneficial for me.
In terms of tangible growth, obviously COVID has thrown a little bit of a curveball, but minus COVID, what's your growth trajectory been like over the past 6, 12, 18 months?
Well, yeah, it's funny we talk about COVID. It's been something that's just thrown everything, but it actually gave me an opportunity to really refine what I'm doing and, touch wood, on the back end of COVID, we're doing some great numbers. We've grown tremendously, probably, in terms of patient numbers, we're probably seeing 20, 30 more people a week, which is awesome. We're starting to, increase our revenue, our patient visit average, all those little tangibles that are starting to achieving great results. And it comes down to really understanding what to track, what's important, and how as an outcome, things like revenue and patient numbers will start to happen. But you've got to look at the important little things that build up to that. I never even knew what PVA was before I joined Clinic Mastery. So I certainly do now.
No doubt you do now. That's unreal, mate. You've done a ripper job and your clinic growth has been phenomenal. Tell me, what does the next 6, 12 months look like for you as a clinic owner?
Yeah, absolutely. So this year we've grown from, a sole trader to a team of 4, which is me, my new hire, and 2 wonderful support staff. Over the next 6 months, I'm hoping to take on one more team member, one more physio, I should say, sorry, and potentially build on another intern. We've had to pivot our internship model because of COVID, because a lot of most of our interns have come from overseas, but we've done that quite well. So we're looking at, though, taking on a local intern and just building on the back end of that and building the momentum. So I'm really excited just to grow the team, consolidate the team, and continue to help more people.
I'm curious, mate. What does growing your clinic mean for you? What is what role does Clinics for Good play in that? And what's the end game for you in and through all of this?
Yeah, so I touched on that sort of at the start when I went back to India. When I went back there thinking, how can I build something that I can go back there and help the people of India? So a big part of my why with my clinic is to grow a clinic that is not reliant upon me, that will be able to operate with me, very hands off and stepping away, and looking at ways of funneling and helping and support, vulnerable people overseas, but particularly, in India. And otherwise, I have a community of people who are of Indian descent who see me, who live about an hour away from the practice, but make the effort to see us, which I so appreciate. But a lot of them are Indian, and a lot of them have had terrible experiences over there in terms of unnecessary surgery, unnecessary medications, unnecessary injections, which have put them in a terrible state. And meeting these wonderful people, I'm like, there has to be a way I can go back and get people the right information and help them manage their conditions well. If I can help one person avoid an unnecessary surgery, I think I've done it. Okay. And of course, then, Jack, helping the poor people, that would be amazing. So, yeah.
Unreal, mate. That's exciting. And I know that's why, people like yourself get up out of bed in the morning to grow your clinic, to lead an inspired team, to create amazing client experiences so that you can be a clinic for good, and to watch this play out, and for us to co-pilot alongside you is an absolute pleasure and a real privilege. So in light of all the lessons you've learned over the last couple of years and the last couple of months of COVID and what you're building towards, if you could impart some wisdom to the clinic owners tuning in, listening, what might that be?
I've said it a few times, but run your own race. What we didn't pick on, Jack, was when I opened my home clinic, there was a lot of people who judged me. There was a lot of people who actually made fun behind my back. And a few people have said, wow, that's gutsy, which I really appreciate now. But I knew that was going to give me the platform to launch. And it's like that reverse arrow. Sometimes you've just got to live in the dirt, get things right before you can launch. And I'm testimony to the fact that when you get those systems right and you live in the dirt, you can actually, shoot for those clouds and work towards that. So please run your own race and know that there is not one size fits all. You don't have to take on a huge commercial space and have huge debts necessarily. I was just very lucky that I had a space that I could utilize, and it set me up for success. So I just really wanted to impart that, mate. And don't let other people judge you.
Absolutely unreal. And I think it's not just luck. I think there's a lot of hard work and a lot of skillful visioneering. So that's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and insight. If clinic owners wanted to get in touch to check out your journey, to see what's going on in the land of Ives Silvera, how should they do that, mate? Where can we connect with you?
Yeah. Socials will probably be the bet, at Physio Ives or at YS Physio is our webpage. We'd love to connect with you all, or just check out our website, physioives.com. And yeah, just get in touch. I'd love to help anyone out who feels that I could help them.
And you're such a generous guy with your time and insight. So we really appreciate that. And we'll make sure we link all that up in the show notes or the captions in and around this. And listeners, for show notes, you can head over to clinicmastery.com/podcast. Find this episode and everything will be connected and linked up over there. Ives, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us, mate.
Thank you so much, Jack.
And listeners, thank you for joining us. As always, we really appreciate your time and attention joining us on the Grow Your Clinic podcast. Feel free to connect with us on our socials in and around this episode. And for any of the show notes, head to clinicmastery.com/podcast for all of the notes and links over there. Thank you for tuning in, and can't wait to bring you another episode of the podcast again really soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast, and please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.